Welcome to the AI and ML conversations with myself, Yavor Botev. In this podcast, I talk to AI and ML experts about building real-world systems, working with humans and AIs, and exploring the future of our field. Right, hello everyone, and welcome to the AI and ML conversations with myself, Yavor Botev. Today I'm super happy to have with me Dimitar Nentchev, who is somebody that I've known for, I would say, probably 20 years, something like this.
Yep.
Yep. So we studied together in the same high school. And actually, just this morning, as I was thinking about the conversation today, I remembered my last memory when we were like finishing up high school. And you were actually a great football player back then. Maybe you still are, but back then you were really going for it. And I actually remember that maybe one of the last years that we studied, we were playing soccer and I was goalkeeping and you kicked the ball so hard and I boxed it. But then whole summer I had some sort of a pain in my wrist because of...
I think I remember that game actually. Now that you mention it, yeah, I do remember.
Yeah. So that was a little introduction of you. But so I wanted to maybe first start off with indeed how you decided to steer your studies, your university studies after you graduated from high school. So both of us studied in a maths high school, and I know you
Yes.
studied in different, I guess even countries.
Yes.
And how did you think about this whole thing?
Oh, it's a very strange story, honestly, because you mentioned the football. The soccer. Depends who's listening.
Yeah.
I was thinking I was gonna be a professional soccer player up until I was 21 years old. So even that at that time, at that game, I was still going for it. So I was totally off track when we last met. When we had that game in high school.
Yeah.
So I had to really go through like a very, I'm going to say bottom of my kind of mental state when I was very early on, because the football thing was not really working out. I was studying like a remote in New Bulgarian University, economics. Like if you ask me why I picked economics, maybe the way I was thinking back then, my dad was an entrepreneur. Maybe entrepreneurship is something interesting. I'm just going to sign up for economics. The only program that was offering it remotely was New Bulgarian University. I want to play football. So I played football for 2 years. Some of it was semi-professional, like part of it was professional. Obviously, it was not working out. So I had to make a very massive U-turn in my life, in my career. And thanks to my mom, she planted this idea in my head about studying in the US. I didn't even want to hear about it when I was 16, 15, because I still thought I was going to play football.
Yeah.
But this idea was somewhere there. And then I was like, okay, how can I use these 15 years of football and not start from zero? And also I had good grades at high school. Obviously the high school, Sofia Math High School, was pretty solid.
Yeah.
It was really hard for me actually to catch up with the pace when I got into the school, but it was all right eventually. So I used these and I applied to probably 10 or 20 universities, but in a very strange way. I was contacting the football coaches, not the admissions offices. And
so interesting.
Yes, and I was telling them, hey, I have this, so we want like the nationals 3 times. So I'm a national champion. I have good grades. Can you help me? Scholarship, etc. So actually, of 20 universities, I had one full scholarship with a very third division, because over there the universities are kind of division tiered. And then a really good university gave me no scholarship, but very expensive tuition. So it was kind of up to my parents, because I didn't obviously want them to pay all this money. But my mom was very firm. You're going to go to the good school. So It was very lucky, actually. It's insane. And I didn't even tell my parents because I didn't want them to sway me.
Yeah.
All the way up to 3 months before I had to leave. So I was doing this for a year, incognito. I was actually living in Borowitz because I was playing for a local
Oh, the
club
city.
there.
Okay.
Borowitz, yeah, the ski resort.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was working on this kind of whole project.
Okay.
So that's how I got into that university. Obviously, the feeling there was like the same again, the math high school feeling. Basically, everybody is there, they're super smart. So it was
Yeah.
very hard and the language was different. I just continued with economics there.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that maybe to bring it back to the kind of the topic here,
Yeah.
one thing that really like shocked me is that I did in economics, probably in Bulgaria as well. There you have to do calculus. And even calculus 2, there was almost like a review of 12th grade in our high school. Like
Yeah, right. Yeah.
almost half of it, I was like, oh, I've done this in high school. So, and then I had a chance, after I graduated, I had a chance to, well, at that point, I already knew I'm not going to be a professional football player.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chance to start a PhD, but
Oh.
I don't know even why I didn't do it, because maybe if I could now, I probably would start the
Oh,
PhD.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah. But I didn't, because I obviously wanted to get my hands dirty with the business, start making
Mm.
money, start recouping the investment of my parents. Obviously, they weren't pressuring me, but I was pressuring myself.
Yeah.
So I didn't do the PhD. And then circumstances were such that I had to then do a master's
Mm-hmm.
because I had to choose between prematurely, at least in my head, leaving my abroad experience because I had
Mm-hmm.
some sort of, I'm not going to call them visa issues, but because my work permit expired after 1 year, they allow you to work in the US. So I had to choose between going back to Bulgaria and finding something else. I
Yeah.
wasn't ready to go back. Obviously, I still wanted to work on the ROI of my education. So
Yeah,
I,
especially if you put a lot of money in it, then you
yes,
want to
yes,
get some money back.
yes. So I decided to do a master's. Again, I wouldn't do the same thing if I had to choose again. I went for management
Mm-hmm.
because like maybe 30-40% of management is like economics related, finance and
Mm-hmm.
microeconomics, macroeconomics.
Yep.
So again, it was not a good decision, but in the middle of my master's, I had actually stopped my master's degree because I worked for this startup. I got very inspired by some machine learning gurus there,
Mm.
and I tried to use kind of the university platform to get as much as I can in my second year. So I started signing up for these machine learning classes, mathematical programming classes
Yeah.
to kind of start to go in that direction. But I was a very late bloomer in that respect. So it's very strange, football, economics, management, and then
Yeah,
data.
yeah, yeah.
So
That's
that's
one of the
the short story.
Yeah, that's great. That's one of the things I was wondering is indeed at what point during your studies or maybe during your work that you picked up this interest in data and maybe ML and stuff like this. So I
This was
guess
it.
this was it. Yeah.
This was it. The stoppage of and again, it was very coincidental because it was the idea of a friend of mine. He was working for this very popular Bulgarian startup here these days. And
Hmm.
obviously in startup world is very hot and exciting. And
Hmm.
I got an opportunity to work for a similar startup, but in Hamburg, Germany.
Hmm.
And there, actually in the US, I already had some experience with SQL and
Hmm.
databases. So I kind of naturally was working close to data scientists because since those days, this was 2014,
Hmm.
13, 14. In those days, right now, I feel like the whole machine learning, AI, data science thing is branched out into kind of areas on its own. But back then, it was just data
Yeah.
science, I feel like.
Yeah.
And they were the two data scientists. Both of them were PhDs. One of them was a Bulgarian guy. And I was so amazed by the type of stuff they do that I was like really trying very hard to get in a project with them.
Yeah.
I learned R only to get to work with them. They gave me this like really massive automation of one of their models to code because it was just this laborsome thing no one wanted to do, but it had to be done. And I would be so amazed how I'll go to lunch with them and they would explain to me what their models are doing. But because they're PhDs, they understand it so well. And like Einstein said, you don't understand anything unless you can explain it to a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And they were that good. And I got so impressed by like the whole idea that I was like, oh, how can I get involved into this? So I started taking the classes when I went back to school. Then I managed to tease out a sort of a dissertation project with that company through those two guys. They were basically trying to do something like, can you use Yelp data to improve the predictiveness of default geolocation data? So
Okay.
we just took the challenge because they already had the idea. Obviously, it had some potential. They didn't really throw a
Can I
bomb at us.
maybe ask for some more details here? So what
Yeah.
exactly was this machine learning project trying to achieve?
So the company was in credit. So they did consumer credit scoring, but they did it in very strange markets where there is very little data. So they were scrambling for all sorts of data to find predictive power to predict creditworthiness. So they were entering markets where there is very little of stuff like credit bureaus, these kinds of institutions, and managing to actually in one of the countries there was a credit bureau, but their models were already starting to beat the credit bureaus in terms of accuracy.
Nice.
They were scrambling like social media data, behavioral data at point of application, like how you fill your application, do you read the terms and conditions, this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you're in that kind of mode, your most valuable thing is just the R&D. Just keep experimenting, trying new things, adding more different types of data to your models to improve. And one of the ideas they had was that the geolocation is important for creditworthiness. And I think we use this one of these kind of local guide feedback type platforms. You know, do you like this restaurant?
Yeah.
Score 0 to 5, 1 to 5. I think it's still used these days.
That's Yelp that the one that you mentioned,
Yelp
right?
was, yes.
Yeah,
And they had this API, and I'm like, okay, we can scrape the API and then come up with all sorts of like proximity to banks, distance from schools, like all these things that obviously correlate with a lot of things, unfortunately, in life. And I don't know if they ended up using it, but obviously it was catching something because so they sent us just the data set with the tags. This guy defaulted or didn't default.
Yeah.
We just had to append the features and experiment with some models just to see the potential. Just handed off to them. It was great. We had to sign up NDAs and like this is property of the company kind of thing.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff probably would hardly happen with a bigger company, but they were still in startup mode. So that's kind of my very early push to get into the data science groove.
Yeah. Now that's very interesting, and especially I've also worked for fintechs where we were building machine learning models, and the geolocated data was actually quite useful in terms of predicting the dependent variable. It was also in the financial kind of sphere. And I was actually surprised by how useful it is, that people who live in certain neighborhoods or certain locations were, this was such an important variable. But also something else, I think I remember it was often that people, let's say records in our training data sets, they would be clustered around a single geolocation. And that would give us some clues that maybe something fishy is going on, that maybe somebody is trying to apply for several, let's say, credits or applications. So it's very, very interesting data.
Yeah, it's an important problem to solve.
Yeah,
Not easy to crack, but if you have good data, I think the one thing that's kind of scarce always in any company is quality data.
yeah,
So usually, you know what they say, crap in, crap out,
yeah,
this kind of stuff.
definitely. That's definitely true. And right, so this was your first project, and then I know that you worked for some larger companies.
Yes.
You, yeah. How did that go? So what was your, let's say, generally speaking, your career progression?
So when I did the startup in Germany, I almost
Mm-hmm,
didn't go back to school, but I was already 50% invested. Obviously, a lot of my decisions in those days were driven by ROI, unfortunately,
mm-hmm,
because I was very conscious of the amount of money spent on my education.
mm-hmm,
So I was like, okay, I spent all this funds on my first part of my masters. I might as well just finish it.
yeah,
And then I got, what's the word, poached or
mm-hmm,
approached by this guy that was looking for um, analytics person. So
mm-hmm,
again, that's when I started to become conscious that there's like spectrum of data people, like from engineers to BI analytics, data science, machine learning. Kind of it's a spectrum, but
yeah,
these guys were looking for kind of an analytics guy that knows SQL. And it was very funny because he was very honest. He was um, alumni of my US university, and
mm-hmm,
he was like, I was wondering how to approach the whole hiring process. So I typed in LinkedIn SQL and the name of the university that he graduated, and he was like,
mm-hmm,
there was two guys, you and this other guy, but obviously I liked you better.
mm-hmm,
Obviously, and he typed in London as well because I was
yeah,
based there. But the role was like very relatable. It was also in consumer credit
mm-hmm,
in this other like bigger global company. So it was very obvious. And I remember when I went to the interview, I pretty much pitched my dissertation, like
mm-hmm,
just to showcase. He wasn't even asking me questions. I just went with my dissertation. I was like, oh, yeah, this is what I did. I find it fun. He obviously was clear that I have the skills. So they hired me. It was basically, I tried to prove, because in the school that I studied for masters, they're very big in social science.
mm-hmm,
So the dissertation had to revolve around some sort of like economic concept, and I chose the financial markets. So
mm-hmm,
I tried to prove, and I think I managed to, that before the IPOs, founders of companies can successfully use social media to inflate their valuations. So I scraped a whole bunch of Twitter data. Now it's X.
yeah, yeah,
And I then correlated it. Obviously, I read a whole bunch of research because with this kind of stuff, you have to include everything that's been researched today. And let's say, for the sake of the conversation, add an extra feature that you think is important
that's right.
and
Yeah,
then prove that it adds explanatory power, right?
yeah,
To your hypothesis. And my hypothesis was that if you account for everything that the research says impacts the price of the IPO, if you add this, and I think I added something like, I did some sort of natural language stuff on their Twitter feed
mm-hmm,
and managed to extract some sort of statistical significance out of it. And I pitched this to at my interview, and I got hired. So this was very different experience because this company was and still is huge. I was a bit surprised that I was looking for the inspiration like I had in my startup, like with the two
mm-hmm,
PhDs I told you.
yeah,
Honestly, for how many years I spent there? Maybe 7 or 8 years. I couldn't find that person. Actually, I think I found the person, but he left in the second year.
yeah,
And since then, I was pretty much on my own, like looking for like, okay, where is this person that like this rock star that I can
yeah, yeah,
somehow team up with, learn from, and in big organizations. You just had to get involved in cool projects like this.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard. I'm not going to say hard, but it was not possible for me to find that, because even if it was like a tech company, popular company, maybe somewhere in California there's a basement of like really smart PhDs, but they work on like
Yeah.
very niche areas, and in the big
Mm-hmm.
company you're just one little bolt in the big engine, and it's harder
Definitely.
to navigate like this. So
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, then for large companies, it's because I also worked maybe 6, 7 years close to you, I guess, in a very large financial company,
yeah.
and just the speed, or let's say the slowness of these large companies, it's crazy when you compare it to startups. Things in startups move like realistically 10 times faster. Yeah.
Yes, and I made a lot of career mistakes there.
Mm-hmm.
My first one, I was still kind of, well, even today I am, but we're just before the podcast started,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about kids, so things
Yeah.
change with kids. But I remember I was still very trying to push in the direction of data science, right? Although in
Mm-hmm.
every company there's a lot of stuff that you need to do that's not necessarily related to the cool stuff you like to do. So I had to deal with a lot of this, but I still had this idea that I'm going to push projects like this. And I did it prematurely a couple of times, and I wasted so much energy. And that's when I realized with these kinds of things, you need to start backward. You need to
Mm-hmm.
find the business case and quantify the business case, and then actually do the actual modeling work.
Yeah.
Because I tried in reverse, and it was such a waste of effort, because obviously I was too early in the company to understand like the whole dynamics, to realize, oh, this is actually not useful at the moment. I remember for example, I built a churn model,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember pitching it to the director, and he was like, actually, I don't care about churn. We just want to grow. We don't care. We just
Mm-hmm.
invest so much in marketing, but we don't necessarily need to prioritize this at the moment. Then I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh crap. So that's a whole bunch of work
Yeah.
gone to waste. So that's one. I'm not gonna say big mistake, but it's a mistake to make. Now I'm
It's a
in a similar.
learning probably,
It's a
right?
learning. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, that's what I'm telling you. I couldn't really have that person to tell me these things, so I had to try on my own and make these mistakes.
Yeah.
And now I have a totally different approach. With the company I worked now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking the opposite approach. I have an idea of something, but I'm trying to really get to the almost down to the profit per year number that this is going to
Mm.
make you, to really get buy-in from like senior people. Otherwise, it's going to be another one of those a whole bunch of
Mm.
effort that results in pretty much nothing at the
Yeah.
end. So
Interesting.
uh, yeah, I did a bunch of mistakes there, but it was generally a good experience. Good company
And
has its benefits. A big company has their benefits.
yeah, for sure. You get yeah. Well, actually, I think working for a large company exposes you both to good and bad practices, so that you know what to look forward to and what to avoid at the same time.
Yes.
And I think something else that I was thinking about is it's important to have, even if you work as in a tech company or in a financial company, it's important to have managers or and higher ups who understand data and, let's say, statistical thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think I've seen a lot of let's say uh, cases where machine learning models could be used profitably,
Yeah.
but you needed maybe you need some time to develop a solution. Maybe it was a little bit not straightforward how the models worked, and people who are not very familiar or comfortable with these concepts have like a negative attitude towards them. Did you have
We
any such
agree.
experiences?
Totally agree. Yes. Well, the one that I just mentioned probably directly applies as well
Mm-hmm.
in a way, but more recently, did lose. So the person that hired me, he was basically had to leave the company, and he was really. I liked him a lot. He was a product kind of lead figure in the product space in the company. He was very quantitative. He understood the idea behind everything, not necessarily all the methodologies and everything, but he was hungry for that kind of input. Whereas now, once he's gone, um, now I'm kind of almost like a salesman. I need to go and sell my team because I was put in a position where almost directly, not directly, but almost I was told you need to prove that your team adds value because
Yeah.
there is lack of understanding upstairs. How exactly is your team adding value? Especially now, if I can throw in like a hot potato topic here with large language models. I'm not too scared of large language models in my job, but I can see how it's directly, obviously, impacting productivity and can have some substitution effects. But the guy that makes decisions, he's very kind of techy and he sees that as the future. So I'm pretty much almost, I'm trying to get myself out of the day to day so I can like strategize about how to sell my team.
Yeah.
Because it's the organic pool of our product is not there anymore. Which I don't think that's a bad thing. It's maybe a healthy thing career wise to learn the skill.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting. So when you don't have buy-in from the top, you have to do a whole lot of selling it. That's why I totally changed my approach from actually building stuff to more like building ideas,
Yeah.
relatively reliably quantifying them, so I can pitch them to the C-levels because they only understand revenue, profit per month kind of numbers.
Yeah.
Most of them. There is obviously the odd ones that are very data hungry. So it's definitely interesting and different. Maybe harder, depends on your skill. If you're into sales, maybe it's not harder. It definitely challenges you more to be more creative and be more strategic about the whole idea of using data to solve problems.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this touches on the topic of if you want to be an effective data scientist or machine learning engineer, uh, you have to be, I would say, first on the technical side, probably full stack engineer as much as possible. But even on
Yeah.
top of this, you want to have these sales skills and I would say stakeholdership management skills,
Yes, yes. So
so that
important.
you can indeed defend your right to exist almost.
It's so hard to find this mix of skills in the same person. I think I've worked with people, a bunch of people like this. And you know, one thing that I always wondered,
Mm-hmm.
if this is such a hot profession, because it used to be like the hottest profession, right? That was in magazines, data scientist.
Yeah.
Where are all the data scientists? Because there are just so much things that I can think of that you can achieve with these kinds of tools. And I always had this hypothesis that they're probably where the most money is paid. So probably like the really good ones are working for Google, Facebook, and maybe some hedge fund. And there is not enough, because obviously probably that's where most of the money is.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of opportunity to improve things that are probably not so ROI heavy, but still can improve a lot of things using these kinds of methodologies. But it's just
Yeah.
hard to have all the skills because actually running the models, and I did that mistake, doing all the data science work without doing all the business work, not even hand in hand beforehand. It's just very ineffective, and it's hard to have both skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So now, right now, in my current startup role, the way we're doing things is, in a way, easy because we somehow decide to work on a certain machine learning feature, and we don't do a lot of. We're a small company, and we don't do a lot of. We don't have to do a lot of stakeholdership management just because there are not a lot of people, not a lot of stakeholders to manage. So what we do is we build very quickly, let's say, a beta version of the product. So it's a lot more than a proof of concept. It's something that our users can actually get value from. And we try to get real feedback from our real customers.
Yes.
And we use this feedback to iterate. Having this quick iteration loop is something that I actually quite like, and it saves you from a lot of wasted
Yes,
time
yes.
in a
That's
way.
very smart. I actually started to realize this more and more now that I work in I started the company I work for now. I started as a product head of product analytics, and I
Mm-hmm.
have a chance to work very, very closely, although I've done in the past as well, but now I'm dedicated to product people.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's a smaller company, they have exactly this approach. Like everything is thin there. Like time is thin, money is thin, because it's not a
Mm-hmm.
like gigantic company. So they have this kind of MVP, they call it minimum viable product
Yeah.
mentality, which is exactly what you said. Push it out the door, get it to work, and then iterate to improve it. And I also saw this when because between my US big company experience and coming back here to Bulgaria experience, I had a gap year where I tried to do stuff on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And there, what really helped me is when I was able to set up my work in a way where I could really fail very quickly. Because these iterations of when I see the result of let's say you have a hypothesis or something you want to try, you do it, you fail, you learn something, you try again, and this is kind of the most valuable loop that
Yeah.
really gets you to understand and improve things. So I do agree that this way of approaching things where you don't really overthink it,
Mm-hmm.
overthink the whole product, just get it out the door, get it to work, get some feedback, and iterate to improve is the best way in this kind of environment.
Yeah. It's nice new way, which I think especially with AI assisted coding and just AI in general, you can really accelerate your growth.
Yes,
You
massively.
know, yeah. Especially if you're kind of I don't want to say a heavy user of these things, but if you lean into them, sometimes they can also slow you down. If you like, for instance, now AI agents are a very hot topic, and some
Yeah.
people very quickly are able to build like copies of very famous companies and products. They're able to just recreate them in a couple of days using AI agents and maybe platforms like Lovable and or maybe even just using Cursor. But I think that's also a bit of it's dangerous, right? Like you can create something that you don't know how it works. You can't maintain it. You can't really operate it. So
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering myself. Where where is the line, and where is this going to evolve, and how fast?
hmm
Because ultimately, I think this is gonna improve. But I was really shocked how much it improves productivity. I was relatively late to pick it up.
hmm
I think it was a couple of years ago, and I remember I was working on. I was in between the US and the company I worked for here. I was doing my own
hmm
consultancy, and one of the things I was doing for myself is a trading algorithm. And interestingly, the math was adding up, but the software and the stability of it was breaking everything.
hmm
But I remember working on this thing for like, I think I spent at least a year almost full time doing it, writing the codes from like the API, connecting to the APIs of
hmm
of the trading platforms, building the models to determine the signals, building my own monitoring system, everything.
hmm
But I remember how much time this whole research took me. And I was just meeting with this guy that was not even that close to me. We just decided to have coffee. And he was like, "Hey, what do you think about this ChatGPT thing?" And back then I was like, "Yeah, I see it in the news all the time. I get the idea. I just thought it's one of those things that there's a bunch of hype, and then it's
hmm
gonna go away." And I was thinking, if it stays hyped for like maybe 2, 3 more months, I'll check it out.
Mm.
And he was like, no, come here. Tell me something. And I was like, okay, let's challenge this thing. Write me a code that blah, blah, blah. And I told him, like, let's say that the first 5% of my code to scrape some like trading platform to get the prices of some sort of crypto, because I was trading
Mm-hmm.
cryptocurrencies. And explain to it, like, I want the output to be like this, minute candles, blah blah blah. And this thing like spit out the code. And because I know the code, I was like, man, this is gonna, if I copy paste this right now, it's going to work. And I was so shocked. And
Uh-huh.
that really helped me make the leap from that to actually starting my own consultancy, so to speak, because I realized
Yeah.
I can use this thing to build quickly prototypes and try to sell them
Mm-hmm.
of different kind of data products. So it was shocking. Now, where is it going to go? Yeah, I think it still lacks the creativity aspect, the strategic thinking aspect. You have the hallucination stuff. You still need to understand what you're doing enough to not fall into the trap of making a huge
Yeah.
mistake
Yeah.
for now.
Actually, yeah. Something that you said that your idea from 2 years ago was to use it to use AI and LLMs to help you create proof of concepts or something like this
Yes,
quickly
prototypes,
and
yeah.
prototypes indeed, and to sell them. But actually, I think funny enough, now these LLMs probably drive the price of such prototypes almost to zero because it's so easy for even non-technical people to create them.
Yes, yeah, agree.
So maybe now actually the the demand would be for people who can maintain and productionize these sort of prototypes.
A good point. Yeah, because I find myself more and more thinking about, because now that I'm kind of transitioning from a career perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I always like to get my hands dirty with code, but now I'm in a position where I have a team, and it's so hard to do that because I
Mm-hmm.
told you I have to be a salesman for the team, and I have to, tend to their like just bottlenecks or some like
Yeah.
company politics.
Yeah.
So I find myself more and more thinking about, okay, how is that going to impact my team? And again, I'm not really wearing like my pink glasses. Companies come and go, everything's so dynamic. I don't even know if I'll be with this company and for how long. But still, like, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
a leader of this team, I need to be thinking about these things. So I started to read more and more about it, to start to prepare myself and them, because we are
Yeah.
making some specific steps in that direction as a team,
Mm-hmm.
which are going to have impact. I think these things are going to improve more and more and get better in the things they're not good at the moment, like this critical thinking aspect.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, my biggest thing with these kinds of things is who takes responsibility if this thing tells you something that's totally wrong. Probably you that you used it, but still, if it's disseminating some sort of semi-truth and you step
Mm-hmm.
on it, it's kind of tricky.
Yeah.
But I'm more and more conscious. I'm just conscious that I need to be more conscious of it. I don't necessarily have the right answer at the moment, but it's definitely worth not
Yeah.
resisting it, because it's here to stay for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
but
think
yeah, definitely, I agree. But it's interesting that you say, indeed, if the model says something that is not exactly true, and then you, let's say, act on the basis of this thing, whose fault it is, and it's actually, for me, initially, I thought there was like a black and white answer to this question. I was going to say that it's up to the individual who uses this information. He is responsible for
probably, yeah,
using it wrongly. But to be honest, at the same time, I also see a lot of people, sub colleagues, people I know, they almost blindly trust the answers of
yeah,
LLMs, and I think that's a little bit concerning. I've seen people use it for all sorts of things. So for they ask the LLM for a complex calculation, the LLM, because it's trained to be helpful and to always give you a good answer, it spits out something, but there are absolutely no guarantees that that thing actually makes sense. But still, the people use it, and I think that's a bit maybe it's not very prudent. Let's call it like
Exactly.
this.
It's still kind of in the gray, but the potential is so big that I think these kinds of things, and I'll be totally honest, to me, this is still like really, I understand just the principle of it. I don't necessarily understand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't even understand exactly how these kinds of things are built.
Yep.
I definitely want to learn more. I think what kind of keeps me relatively calm is that I understand kind of the principle and how it helps me, how it's
Mm-hmm.
impacting my team more or less. But I think these sort of issues with the performance will probably be fixed or improved probably quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the best course of action for anybody is to make use of one of these things to be more productive, because whoever resists it probably is going to become less productive.
Yeah.
And I think these things with who's responsible, what output do we trust,
Mm-hmm.
especially young people, like kids, even because I have kids now, they're
Mm-hmm.
so intuitive that they're going to learn very quickly where the line is and
Mm.
start dealing with it. But I think by the time they get there, this thing is going to be so much better at this that it's going to be almost like the Star Trek movies. I feel like at that time. So things are going to
Yeah.
change a lot, I think, for these kinds of professions,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
with these the knowledge economy, maybe they call it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're definitely right, and I think that's the good approach to have. I know some people have really been hyping AI for the last couple of years, and they still are. But I think the objective, let's say, truth is that indeed this is going to change our society in ways that we can't even imagine, or at least in it will be something as close, as fundamental as at least the industrial revolution.
Yes,
Um,
I agree.
Yeah, so it's really big one. But I wanted to actually go back to also another topic because you've had a, let's say, mid management to head of divisions positions in different companies, and you have been managing teams for a number of years, I think. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about the human aspect of managing teams. So, not we spoke a lot about how you manage relationships, which let's say are maybe your head or the director or something like this. But how do you make sure that the team dynamic is healthy, that people are learning, developing, they know what their tasks are, they're productive, stuff like this.
Yeah. Well, it's not easy because I think I've had, let's see, maybe four, maybe five different teams,
Mm-hmm.
out of which the first three I had to build from scratch. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, two of them, I had to build totally remotely in COVID.
Oh.
And the first time I actually had to, how the school system teaches you
Mm-hmm.
that almost like the person who teaches has to be the most knowledgeable, and everybody else should be less knowledgeable under him, right? The hierarchy of it.
Yeah.
And somehow, although this is insane and it's not possible, you somehow are predisposed to think like this. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I first had to build a team of people that are obviously a lot smarter than me, because the topic was, I think it was, so my manager was kind of forced to switch teams,
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
given this kind of hot potato loss forecasting director role, and
Mm-hmm.
he offered me to go with him, and we had to build a team that, because loss forecasting has so much, basically determines how much money the company sets aside for losses, and with these
Yeah.
kinds of huge companies is like in the hundreds of millions, and obviously these models can sway things quite a lot, especially this was COVID days. where all the macro forecasts were insane. Every day was different. And I was like, oh man, I have to hire people that are a lot smarter than me with PhDs. So this was interesting experience. So this is when I kind of split from this perception that I have to hire people that are more smart than. Actually, I did this mistake and it backfired. So totally stupid idea. So it's very different because you cannot really be doing with them because they're flying. Like you're trying to walk and they're flying, so becomes very different exercise. And I realized quite quickly that I just need to not stand in their way and suffocate them and just give them kind of the opportunity to build stuff and be creative. So that was kind of the first proper, I think, management experience I had, because my initial attempts, I was more like doing with my team, which is very small scale type of way, because you cannot really scale yourself as a manager this way. And right now my experience is probably the most representative, because my team is maybe the biggest I've had. It's still not big. It's 6 people. And the environment is very dynamic, maybe. I'm going to use that word, because in a small company, people leaving, people coming, churning employees, people being poached. There's churn in the company, and this kind of gets people scared. So it's very challenging to keep a team motivated in this kind of environment. Really challenging. It's the first time I actually am in this kind of a position. And I don't know, things I've done to address this. Well, actually, I'll probably reverse a little bit. When I was in the big US company, I was in the list for being fired. Because this guy, the chief risk officer of the company, decided that he wants to put his team in one place, and it was kind of cost-driven decision. Because I was working in New York, and the same person with my title could cost like 30-40% less in Baltimore.
Okay.
And obviously a bunch of people that I worked through the years, director levels and plus, told him that he's making a mistake. So he got very curious. He wanted to speak to me to see, hey, who's this guy that they're saying that I shouldn't fire? And for some strange reason, he decided to give me a pep talk, like career talk. He was like, okay, you're making a big mistakes in your career. Like, you've been in this company for, I was like at that point, maybe 7, maybe 6 years. You've been promoted, let's say 1 or 2 times, but you haven't really moved much. Like, you're really lucky that these guys know your name. Otherwise, you would have been fired right now. So he was like, when you're that early in your career, you really need to sell yourself. You need to move around, switch teams, switch projects. And he was like, that's how you survive in a company like this. That's how you survive in a bigger company. At that point, I knew I was already leaving the company. Nobody else knew apart from me and my wife, obviously. So I wasn't really stressed about the conversation. I was really curious to hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
Because you rarely get a C-level 15 or 20-minute meeting of this kind of a like Fortune 100 company. So it was very interesting to see how this goes.
And did this conversation work? Like, because it doesn't sound like very, I don't know, at least, we being from Europe, I think we have a bit of a different mentality in terms of managing people than the US.
Yeah, but this guy, I think he was originally Australian, and Australians are, they have a certain character. They're very direct. They have a very nice sense of humor. So he wasn't really shying away from being too direct or anything, because he was kind of using, I think sometimes in like all hands meetings, he was like throwing F-bombs every now and then. Not in a swearing kind of way, but in a cool kind of way. So he was this kind of character. That's why it was kind of funny. And very strangely, he ended up knowing about the company I worked for in Hamburg, because he wanted to acquire that company. So we connected over this, and the whole conversation was like a whole bunch of jokes at the end. But he gave me this advice, and I really thought this is probably the most valuable 30 minutes of my 7-8 years at PayPal, because it was really good advice. And right now I'm trying to do that, basically, to be more flexible, to kind of promote myself and my team more. I used to be kind of not frowning, but rolling my eyes when I see somebody, emailing the whole company with some sort of like progress updates or like project achievements. But now I realize this is really important, not just for your own safety, but for the morale of the whole company. They're seeing that somebody's getting shit done. That's a nice thing. So this is also a part of this kind of promotion aspect. It really is part of keeping a team motivated, because they see they're part of something that, has energy behind it. The other thing that helped was knowing what the people's goals are, because it can be very demotivating if you don't know what am I working on. Even in the next, let's say, I try to do annual goals, but obviously annual is fairly a relative concept in a small company. But at least for the next months, right, you need to have something tangible. I did this and this, and not just like, okay, let's wait for whatever is going to hit me in the next couple of weeks. So that really helped as well, because people know why they're coming to the office, or remote working, or logging in every day. So this kind of stuff helps.
Yeah, I think motivation is explaining to people, especially if you're a manager or C-level person, is very, very important to explain to the people around you the why of what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's not just writing some code or generating some charts. There is for sure a much bigger purpose behind it. I don't hear this often enough, to be fair.
Yeah, well, the why was, so I think I told you that there was this big question mark around the value of my team. And right now, the title is Head of BI and Analytics. Obviously, we do a whole bunch of kind of dashboarding as well. And my first thought was like, okay, these tools have tracking. I know who uses them. Why does nobody know about this? So the no-brainer thing for me was to expose this information to like the higher ups. And like, I got like this really huge reaction from the CTO when he saw the numbers, because nobody was expecting that. Like, let's say the entire dashboard suite has like 8,000 views per month, and like they were questioning the value of the team. And when I showed this to the team, even they didn't know. And all of a sudden they realized, okay, my work has value. And I think this really helped to sell it even to them. Like, what am I doing here, and is it adding value? So that's kind of how the why, and it's not a static thing. You have to fight for it, probably not on a weekly basis, but maybe on a quarterly basis. You need to fight for the why, because these kinds of things are not given. They're kind of evaporating. You get some motivation, then it's kind of dissipating, evaporating. Then you need to pour in some more. So that's kind of what my role is at the moment.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. There is an analogy that I like. That with this, let's say, the promoting your team, it's something like you're climbing on a hill, but the hill is like not very stable, so it keeps sliding. So as long as when you stop climbing, you start moving down. So you have to be constantly climbing and doing this.
And the other analogy which I like, which was kind of made up from the HRs in the company, I really like it, is building the rocket as you're flying it, because that's kind of how it feels. Because you are flying and like things are happening so quickly, and you're trying to build stuff that's stable.
Yeah.
Very challenging. But the other very important thing when you speak about motivation in teams is, because we spoke about our high school and
Mm-hmm.
how getting into that high school, at least to me, felt like getting run over by the fast train,
Yeah.
because I was like so much behind everything when I got into the school. Everybody was like so smart, and I realized how important it is, the what's the word, like the throughput, like who gets
Mm-hmm.
in, right? And I think it's very important how you hire, because I've made that mistake maybe a couple of times,
Mm-hmm.
because I was pushed by time, by circumstances, by maybe sometimes even complacency, that
Mm-hmm.
I force like or rush a decision to hire, and it's then it's bad, because then it impacts motivation, and it impacts your motivation as well. So I think that's also important. I know it's a different part of the whole thing, but that's where it starts, I think, with who are you letting in.
100%. I'm going through this myself right now because we're hiring a bunch of ML engineers in my current company, and I'm doing a lot of interviews. And you
Yeah,
always get to these edge cases where you're wondering, okay, this guy or girl is really good, but
yeah,
there are these couple of things that I'm not so sure about. And
yeah,
indeed, then I try to stick to the principle of hiring slow and just making
yeah.
sure that they tick almost all boxes.
It's tricky because that almost never happened. I think it happened to me only once.
Mm.
That somebody, because I built this. I don't know why. Maybe it's not the best practice, but I built this practice to hire with case studies. So I
Mm-hmm.
come up with these almost self-sustained. Right, you don't need access to systems or whatever. There
Mm-hmm.
is a
Mm-hmm.
kind of a public data set. You just need to get these things done, and I always leave some like bonus points hidden in the thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting for me how the person will react to them. I think it only happened to me once that somebody took all the bonus points and found bonus points that I wasn't even planting,
Ah.
and like totally shocked me. And I was like, this guy is probably just having fun. He's not even gonna accept the offer.
Yeah.
So it only happened to me once. So I'm not saying that all my other hires are bad hires, but
Yeah.
it's always tricky because you always have to compromise. The same way that people overinflate job specs, right?
Yes.
We as employees somehow try to oversell ourselves. So it's always like, okay, something is gonna have to fall through. It's like it's almost like negotiating for a property, right? Yeah, it's this price. No, that's not the price, and you try to find the middle ground. So it's not an easy decision, but some things probably not worth compromising with. Others maybe yes. Really depends on
Yeah.
the team dynamics. Maybe some skill somebody else can compensate because they have the skill.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably the baseline is pure motivation, because I've been in different
Mm-hmm.
aspects of my career in teams where if you're the only person who pours the gasoline in the
Mm-hmm.
team's motivation, it can be really draining. So ideally, you have people who can somehow be creative that way to find their own
Yeah.
motivator and be more kind of proactive. That's probably something that I learned I'll never compromise with if I can,
Mm.
if I have the choice.
Yeah. That's a big one indeed. You don't want to be as a leader or a manager. You don't want to be the one who is always pushing your employees or subordinates or your team to kind of do things. They should be proactive and drive change themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Ideally,
Yeah.
ideally.
One thing I wanted to ask as well is, especially nowadays, that a lot of people are working remotely, some fully remotely, but a lot of people at least working hybrid. I think mental health is a very important topic. You know, not burning out, keeping some sort of a healthy balance between work and personal life. And I think especially when people start having kids, there are a lot more responsibilities in their lives and a lot less room for unplanned stuff. So how do you manage, just your personal kind of mental health and being kind of productive at work as well?
I think I'm not very representative here because when the whole remote thing started to become fashionable with COVID,
Mm-hmm.
I literally had my first kid then. So with kids, everything changed, and I don't know how I can compare it with something more relatable. Like when I was in my university, at
Mm-hmm.
least with me, obviously you have to study on a lot of different topics, and to me it was kind of refreshing, let's say, to stop with my, let's say, statistics course,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
take a 10-minute break, and then pick up, I don't know, anthropology, because in the US they
Mm-hmm.
have this strange thing where you have to study diverse type of topics.
Yeah.
And just the switch of topics was refreshing for me. Somehow it was helping me. I don't know if it's gonna work today because I'm in a totally different state of my being, but then it was really helping me. So with
Mm-hmm.
kids is very much the same. Working strains you in one way, kids strain you in a totally different way,
Okay.
and you're ultimately strained all the time. But because you're strained in a different direction, in a certain way, it's kind of refreshing. And obviously, with the kids, you have the benefit of a whole lot of other things, which you, um, let's say, read books and watch movies about, but you never understand until you actually have them.
Yeah.
So that's the added benefit. And maybe to that, I would add to have kind of a safe place kind of activity. Like for example, for me, when I was studying in the US, I was very homesick,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I changed countries, and I really don't like moving countries, although I moved countries maybe six times or seven
Yeah.
times. Every time was a struggle for me. And I had this kind of a safe place. I had two safe places. One of them is very funny. The other one is more straightforward. So because I come from sports background, one of them was running.
Mm.
Because every time you change an environment, you're stressed about something. You go when I was doing running, I don't run anymore because it wears your body a lot and
Yeah.
you get injuries. I did a bunch of marathons, so I don't do it anymore. I do different stuff. But when I was running, I was kind of like getting in this meditative state, and I was almost like feeling home. Doesn't matter where I am. This was my thing that was kind of bringing me back to my baseline. And it has this. Later on, I realized when I read about meditation, it
Mm-hmm.
was actually having the same effect as meditation because you're clearing your mind because you're doing a
Mm-hmm.
repetitive brainless activity. And obviously, the endorphin from the physical exercise probably was helping as well. So, this was my safe place. Actually, I still have a tradition to go run on my birthday and on the morning after Christmas. Actually, the morning of Christmas Day.
That's so
I
funny.
go for
Nice.
runs, which are supposed to be relatively painful, meaning 10 kilometers at least. Otherwise, it's
Okay.
just like, doesn't really count. So that's
Yeah.
one safe place. And maybe I'll add that to the first point about just switching gears between kids and work.
Yeah.
And then the other safe place, which was very funny, was Starbucks. Sorry to make an ad for the company, but
No, that's fine.
it was funny because everywhere you go in every country, Starbucks is the same. It smells the same, it looks the same, the products are the same. So somehow subconsciously, I was looking for the baseline.
Yeah.
And every time, let's say I'm in London or I'm in New York or Baltimore or whatever, I'll go to Starbucks and I'll feel like I'm in the same place. So I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, maybe just switching gears. Because if you do the same thing, no matter how much you like it, you'll probably burn out. You'll
Yeah.
probably get fed up. You just have to. And I actually read when I still had time to read a bunch of books about kind of more on the Eastern philosophy, broadly speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this concept of almost like separating yourself from yourself and observing how you feel,
Yeah.
almost like from a third person.
Yes.
Well, I think generally speaking, it's a good exercise to do, because you just have to be creative about how you approach your mental state, how you experiment with the different things you do to feel better. When you don't feel better, obviously you need to try something different until you find your safe place. And maybe the last thing I would mention is, I watched this Michael Jordan documentary
Uh-huh.
some time ago, and I was really amazed how this person was obviously overachieved everything like very early before his 30s in his career, and he managed to. It's very obvious in the movie. He managed to squeeze out one extra year of motivation
Mm.
somehow from nothing. I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the times was like somebody told him in some sort of a practice that he's old, and he squeezed
Yeah.
2 years worth of titles and MVP out of this whole thing, only
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
small
Yeah.
thing. So I think this is very important to be your own kind of maybe psychiatrist
Yeah.
and find your safe places. And if you don't have them, I guess you just need to work on them. Try
Yeah.
things. There are so many things people can try. But kids are tough, but in that respect, I don't think that they more help more than they harm the situation,
Mm-hmm.
because they really pull you out of whatever depressed place you think you are,
Yeah.
and with their energy, with the responsibility you need to take, kind of helps you or makes you to be kind of to man up in a way.
Yeah.
And I think it helps more than it harms the situation with mental health
Yeah. Yeah.
specifically.
No, I think you mentioned some super useful things. So meditating, running.
Physical exercise more
Being.
broadly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed, indeed. And to be fair, I think maybe your sports background also helps you a lot. You mentioned being your own kind of psychologist and knowing what's happening inside your head. I think that's
Yes,
super
yes.
important indeed.
That with
Um,
sports was very, and with different people is different. But to me,
mhm,
I had to I had to spend at least an hour, maybe more, on on the day of the game, of every
mhm,
game,
mhm,
and then obviously the day before, to actually mentally prepare for these things. So from there, maybe I have this habit of mentally preparing for things. I always thought that kind of the best performers don't need to go through this because they're naturals and they
mhm,
just go and show up and they get it done. Maybe that's true, but I more and more doubt it,
mhm.
because I don't know, I just find it hard I mean, just seeing how after I've really lived, not being like a high school person
Yeah,
that think they're living, I've like really lived some years and traveled and stuff. I just realized how generally life is not easy, and it's hard to think that somebody just shows up and aces everything.
yeah,
So I think it's more of being mindful and mentally preparing yourself, or mentally treating yourself as well is
yeah.
important, and probably everybody's doing it in their own way. And if they're not doing it, they should. I mean, I know a bunch of people that started paying for going to these kinds of, what's the right word that's not offensive, because
Therapy
sometimes,
maybe.
yeah, therapy, yes, because I sometimes use the wrong word. They're like, oh, you think I'm crazy? I'm not crazy. Therapy, yes. So, and if you ask somebody who's like born in the Soviet Union times in their 60s, they were like,
Yeah,
come on, I'm a tough person, I don't need this kind
yeah,
of stuff. But I think it's pretty good for you. It helps a lot, and I did see the positive impact on people from doing it.
definitely. I agree. I agree. Same. I think that's important. Like, of course, you have to probably try to find your like a therapy person that you click with, but if you
Yes.
find it, then it's super helpful to have this external point of view on your own mind as well.
Yeah, frameworks, coping mechanisms. yeah, every day is a roller coaster, and you need to find a way to.
Yeah.
Like, I personally love routine. When I have a
Mm-hmm.
routine, I'm in a safe place. If I don't have a routine, I feel like crap.
Yeah.
So, which is obviously challenging with kids, but doesn't mean you should stop trying, because getting the kids in the routine has the added benefit of educating them about routine. So it gives you extra motivation to force a routine.
Yeah.
Because with kids, quite often you have to force some stuff, especially early on when it's like total chaos. Later on, it becomes harder when they're like teenagers and they have
Mm.
opinions and stuff like that. But
Hormones.
hormones kick in. Yeah, it's just a matter of time. I'm mentally preparing for that already.
There you go. That's
Yeah,
some planning.
exactly.
Nice. Nice. I think actually that's probably a good spot for us to wrap up the conversation. Maybe one last thing is if you have any maybe general advice to some people that you wanted to mention and that you didn't have the opportunity to, or perhaps I know in the past you worked for your own, let's say, small consultancy. You could also make a plug here or just share anything that you want that you didn't have a chance to.
Generally speaking, I don't think if I can share any like majorly wise words, but
Mm.
I don't know, something that has helped me a lot
Mm-hmm.
when I was early on in my career was to, my dad has this funny saying when he was seeing me stressing out before soccer games, football
Mm-hmm.
games. He was telling me that the knife is wooden, which means
Uh-huh.
like whatever you're scared from, it can't hurt you because it's not a big deal. So I guess you should be, brave and don't worry about it too much. So, oh, actually, I have another funny story.
Okay.
I was in London and I don't even remember what I was working, and I was going to my library because I still had this habit of going to the library. It was still kind of a reflex after, even though I had graduated,
Mm-hmm.
just to do some work. And I accidentally ran to my finance professor, really cool
Mm-hmm.
guy. And I started talking to him I was reading about investments at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me, okay, I was reading like Benjamin Graham's Intelligent Investor, like a popular investment book. He saw me reading the book and he was teaching me the subject. It was very funny. He was like, okay, so what do you think after reading this book? And I told him some ideas I had. And I asked him, okay, give me some advice. Can you give me some advice? Obviously, you've worked for big banks, you teach in like good university. And he was like, okay, so how old are you? And I was like, I think I was like 26 or something. And he told me, okay, at 26, I don't know his exact words now, but he basically told me that I should risk as much as possible at this age,
Mm.
because he told me after you get kids and everything, you can still do it, but it's going to cost you mentally and psychologically a lot more to risk. Not in a bad way, it's just things are different. So again, kind of a different way to say the same thing. For those who are early on in their careers, I guess take more risks. Obviously not life risks, but
Yeah.
maybe career risks. Try new
Okay.
projects, try changing companies, be flexible, be open-minded. So that generally has been my mindset. That's why maybe I switched countries so many times, because I was trying to push the limits as much as I could.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say for the career. And for the startup, I guess I'm still working on a couple of small things that are kind
Mm-hmm.
of left over that are very fun. I'm trying to marry my sports background with
Mm-hmm.
my data career, but it's very, very early days. I'm working with this one company
Mm-hmm.
that's in that area, produces interesting data in that area. We just still haven't, obviously I have very limited time to work on it because I work full time for that company
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
but we're still trying to polish the concept. Maybe once if something happens out of this, I'm gonna be super happy because I don't know, somehow maybe, yeah, I'm passionate about using data to solve some
Mm-hmm.
problems, and it just makes and do things that just make sense. And
Yeah.
I think the stuff that we can do there are very, very fun, very interesting. Hopefully it works out. Maybe you'll learn more after, or if it works out, because it's still
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of in the middle, and it's going very slowly, but it's progressing. So stay tuned if you
Yeah.
wish.
Maybe something to look forward to going forward. Yeah.
Yes, maybe.
Yes. Well, that's amazing. I think that was such an interesting conversation. Like we talked about so many different yet connected things, like sports, data science, working for large companies, working for small companies, management,
Parenthood.
motivation, parenthood, of course, indeed, mental
Yeah,
health. I think that was
very
an
nice. Yeah,
amazing mix. Yeah, yeah. So thanks very much for joining this podcast. Yeah,
pleasure.
maybe we'll see you soon, some time from now. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
You too,
one.
and stay in touch.
Absolutely. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks for listening to the AI and ML conversations with myself, Yavor Botev. If you want to support the show, please subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. In addition, please follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple and share it with the people you know. Thank you.